Greetings, and welcome back to LA Quill. Today I want to talk about a skill that sits quietly at the crossroads of craftsmanship, empathy, and restraint. It is a skill that rarely receives public praise, yet it underpins an enormous amount of published work. It is the art of adopting another's voice, and it may be one of the most challenging disciplines a writer can attempt. When we talk about voice in writing, we often treat it as something deeply personal and almost sacred. Voice is the fingerprint of an author. It is the rhythm of their sentences, the way they frame thought, the metaphors they instinctively reach for, and the emotional distance they keep between the narrator and the reader. For many writers, developing a strong, recognizable voice is the ultimate goal. But there is another path that requires just as much mastery, if not more. Learning to step completely outside your own voice and inhabit someone else's. This ability matters most in ghostwriting, but it is far from limited to that field. Adopting another voice is an invaluable exercise for fantasy authors, especially those working in shared worlds, collaborative projects, long-running series, or franchises that must maintain tonal consistency across multiple books. It is also a powerful way to deepen your understanding of narrative perspective, character psychology, and stylistic control. At its core, adopting another's voice is not mimicry in the shallowest sense. It's not about copying sentence structures mechanically or sprinkling in familiar turns of phrase. It is about understanding how another writer thinks on the page itself. It requires you to recognize what they emphasize, what they leave unsaid, and how quickly they move through action and how they treat emotion. So it asks you to pay attention to the invisible choices that shape a story long before the plot takes the center stage. One of the most common misconceptions about this skill is that it's somehow deceptive or inauthentic. In reality, it demands an intense level of honesty. You have to set aside your own preferences, your stylistic habits, and even your instincts as a storyteller. You are not trying to improve the voice you are adopting. You are not trying to modernize it or streamline it or make it more efficient. You are trying to honor it exactly as it exists. For writers who are used to being praised for originality, this can feel a little uncomfortable at first. There's a kind of ego death involved in successfully adopting the voice of another. Your goal is not to be seen. Your goal is for your presence to disappear entirely. When done well, the reader should never sense the hand behind the curtain. One of the most effective ways to practice this discipline, particularly for fiction writers, is through intentional rewriting. Choose an existing short story, preferably one with a really distinctive narrative voice. Read it carefully, not for the plot, but for the cadence. Note how long the sentences are. Note whether the narration lingers on description or rushes toward action. Pay attention to word choice, especially adjectives and verbs. These details are the very bones of voice. Once you understand the surface patterns, shift your focus to perspective. Every story, even those told in omniscient voice, privileges certain viewpoints over others. Some characters are given interiority, while others exist almost entirely through action or dialogue. By selecting a character who originally had very little narrative authority and rewriting the story from their perspective, you force yourself to engage deeply with both voice and limitation. This kind of exercise does something remarkable. It reveals how much of a story's tone is shaped by who is allowed to speak. A minor character sees the world differently. Their fears are smaller or larger than you might expect. Their stakes are personal rather than epic. Their language may be simpler, sharper, or more emotionally guarded. When you rewrite a familiar tale through their eyes, you must make thousands of little micro decisions that align with both the author's original style and the new narrator's position within the story. As you do this, it becomes essential to keep your original text close at hand. This is not the time to rely on memory or interpretation alone. Read a paragraph from the source, then write your own. Compare them. Ask yourself whether your vision feels like it belongs in that same world. If someone encountered your rewrite without context, would it feel like a natural extension of the original voice, or would it feel like a modern echo layered on top? This comparison process is where real growth happens. You begin to see where your own habits creep in. Perhaps you favor introspection more than the original author. Perhaps you soften language that was originally blunt, or add emotional clarity where the original relied on implication. Each of these tendencies reveals something about your default voice, and each one must be consciously managed when adopting the voice of another. Over time, this practice does sharpen your ear. You start to recognize voice not just as style, but as worldview. Some authors see the world as harsh and transactional. Others see it as mysterious and morally ambiguous. Some narrators stand back and observe, while others press their faces against the glass every single moment. Voice is not only how something is said, but why it is said that way. For fantasy writers, this awareness is especially powerful. Fantasy often asks readers to accept unfamiliar rules and cultures and histories. Voice is what makes these elements feel lived in rather than constructed. When you can convincingly adopt the voice of another person, you gain the ability to differentiate cultures, classes, and eras within your own worlds. A court historian should not sound like a village storyteller. A battle-hardened mercenary should not narrate the world the same way a sheltered scholar would. This skill also deepens your character work. When you learn to write convincingly as someone else, you stop treating characters as variations of yourself. You begin to understand that each character carries their own internal language. They frame events differently. They assign meaning differently. Even silence means different things to different people. There's also a practical benefit for writers, especially if you're interested in professional work. Ghostwriting demands reliability and precision. I've ghostwritten plenty. Clients are not hiring you to express yourself and how you feel and how you think and the way the words come out of your mouth. They are hiring you to become invisible. The better you are at adopting voice, the more versatile and valuable you become. This applies whether you are working in fiction, nonfiction, collaborative storytelling environments, really anything. It is worth noting that this practice should not replace the development of your own voice. Instead, it should run alongside it. Paradoxically, learning to write like others often clarifies who you are as a writer. By temporarily setting your voice aside, you see it more clearly when you return to it. You become more intentional rather than instinctive. There's also a certain humility that comes from this work. It reminds you that no voice exists in isolation. All writers are influenced by those who came before them. Adopting another's voice is not about erasing yourself forever, but about acknowledging that storytelling is a shared lineage, not a solitary invention. If you approach this practice with patience, you will find that it changes how you read as well. You stop skimming for plot and start listening for intention. You notice when a sentence feels inevitable rather than impressive. You learn to respect restraint. These lessons carry forward into every aspect of your writing life. Ultimately, the art of adopting another's voice is an exercise in empathy. You are asking yourself to think as someone else thinks, to value what they value, and to express meaning in a way that feels true to them rather than true to you. That is no small task. It is difficult, sometimes frustrating, and occasionally uncomfortable. But it is also one of the most transformative practices a writer can undertake. And that's our tale from LA Quill today. Tell me in the comments whether you have ever tried writing in someone else's voice, or which author you would find most challenging to inhabit. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.